pick a seat. Where is my name? Okay.
Okay, we
Guess I'm
follow
the third
that.
one.
Follow that rule.
All right, we have quite a crowd. This is great. I want to thank everybody for coming to hear about how we're driving value for business with digital twins. We have a very esteemed panel, and you can see names up above. We'll go ahead and we'll start off with each of them giving an introduction about themselves and what their area of expertise is around digital twins. My name is Dan Isaacs. I'm the CTO for the Digital Twin Consortium, and I welcome you again coming to hear about all this. So why don't we go ahead and get started? So please, why don't we start off with Christian?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dan. Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Kehrer. I'm from a company called Altair. We are a solution provider for digital twins, beneath some other things, which means we help customers create their digital twins in use of some of our tools, which come from data analytics, IoT platforms, simulation, HPC, whatever is needed. We have engineering expertise and teams to work with the customers to create their digital twins. We have started into this journey 3-4 years ago, and we see an increasing traction coming up, more and more interest, more and more content, and more understanding. Really looking forward to discuss with you, with these experts today, and yeah. Thank you very much for inviting us, Dan.
Absolutely. Dr. Grieves.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Michael Grieves, and I'm involved with research and investigation of digital twins, and I'm very interested in what companies are doing in those particular areas, and sometimes I get caught having to help them out with it, but my focus is in kind of pushing this area forward.
Great, thank you. Giuseppe.
Yes, thank you, Dan. My name is Giuseppe Padula. I work on a business model generated by new technologies, in this case from digital twin. I have a vertical experience in automatic processes, especially in packaging. And I have the pleasure to be the regional branch organizer for a digital twin consortium for Italy. My interest is in digital twin into real-time environments.
Excellent. And Giuseppe is also a regional branch organizer for Italy as well. Carlos, please.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, my name is Carlos, and I am with Entity Data, Europe and Latam. And actually, I'm supporting this new idea that we have to start a foundation on digital twins and NTT, pushing different projects in the mining sector, aerospace, so on and so forth. Mostly working in the past in IoT, right? Spain here and Singapore as well. And what we are trying to push this technology towards is to the realization by industry that this is a feasible and actionable technology that can be something that they can benefit and push their everyday work, right? And this is what we are doing in NTT.
Excellent. Thank you, Carlos. So why don't we start this off? We'll ask Dr. Grieves here. What do you see as been one of the biggest impediments that has been in the widespread adoption of digital twins?
Yeah, so I think these are all just opportunities that are disguised as insoluble problems. There's when you have new technologies like this, you wind up with kind of two different problems, basically the different sides of a coin. The one is that the issue is that a lot of the senior leadership doesn't understand what this is, and so you walk in and say, I'd like $1 million for this. It's a problem because they really don't understand what it is that you're trying to do. And quite frankly, one of the issues is they really don't want to have you tell them what this is. They want to act like they know what they're doing. So the issue of it is that somehow they nod their heads like they know what you're saying, but you may be talking a foreign language to them in that particular area. On the opposite side of that coin, though, is the overhype. I mean, if you come in with a boil the ocean requirement, give me $100 million and I will give you a digital twin of your entire organization, you probably aren't going to get that. And so the overhyping and over accessing stuff. So one of my main problems is that you have massive amounts of data but no information. If you remember, my definition of information is that it is a substitute for wasting resources. If you can't create value with your data, then you ought not to be collecting it. Now that doesn't mean that gee, I have to do it right away, so I have to only collect data that I absolutely need. But if you can't see what this data is going to be used for in some reasonable fashion, you ought not to be spending the money to go do that. Sort of related to those two issues is I have a major concern with the small to medium manufacturers. I mean, how this works is that everybody in the supply network has the capability of moving into the virtual arena. And if you basically only get to a certain point where they are build to print in terms of the manufacturing capabilities, there's going to be a real disconnect between what you're doing in terms of modeling and simulation and data structures, and then having to reduce it to two-dimensional blueprints that have all the information that small to medium manufacturers need to actually manufacture stuff. Remember, it's not enough to have great models and things. I mean, those are just pretty pictures. I mean, what you need is the ability of translating these bits into atoms and making sure that you can come out with a finished product that not only meets the requirements, but actually does perform for the user. My view of quality is not that it get manufactured to certain tolerance levels, but that it performs for the user the way they perceive it ought to perform. So you've got to physically get to a product that's going to do that. So the issue of it is that you have the issue of getting the leadership educated and understanding what it is, and then on the other hand, you need to come to them with projects that can be done. So you need to look for low-hanging fruit projects to start off with to prove the worth of this. Because if you go in with this Uber system that you're going to do, you probably are not going to get it funded. I mean, I've sat on many boards of public companies, and they're not technically savvy, I'd have to say, for the most part. So you have to explain this to them in terms that they can understand. They need to understand, not necessarily, gee, I turn on this bit and I get this, but the levers of, these are the inputs, here's what I'm going to get out of it. And they need to understand the linkage between the two, at least at a general level.
And I think the education is very key to this, and understand, looking at the training, maybe you could comment a little bit about that and what you've been seeing.
Yeah, so as I said, I sit on many public boards. In fact, I've been chairman of the audit committee. You never want to do that, by the way. So what we're going to do as a Digital Twin Consortium is look at education and certification at a number of different levels. It's not enough to for example, educate and certify to how you can develop these systems, but you've got to have a level up that says, here's the education for leadership. Talk to them in their terminology and their understanding, so that they can, when you bring in a project, understand what it is that you're proposing, and how to evaluate it. I mean, they basically, if you've been through this process, which I'm sure you have, in essence, you have a CapEx requirement, and then they rank. My perspective is that these projects rank with ROIs that are sometimes unbelievable. I did one for Chrysler, what was Chrysler Corporation, and it was a robotics project. And in essence, there was a 14-week payback on $1 million because they could go from 14 robots to about 7 if they had a digital twin that basically sorted this out. So those are huge, huge ROIs, and sometimes they're unbelievable. And you have to understand that accountants are generally killers of joy, okay? I mean, they're looking for a way not to fund your project. So you have to make sure that you have, that you can in essence show them that this is not, a moonshot, but it basically is that you can get from here to there, and it does have that kind of return on investment.
Great, thank you. And as you said, working with Digital Twin Consortium, we're going to have an initial webinar, and we're going to kick that off with this whole concept of training. Dr. Grieves has graciously agreed, so on March 1st, you'll see he'll be giving a presentation on what this would look like and sort of that structure along with the training as well as certification. So if you go to our website, digitaltwinconsortium.org, you'll be able to register for that and hear more from Dr. Grieves on that. So maybe we could hear, Carlos, what other ways do you see as potentials to overcome these barriers?
Well, actually, there are a lot of potential in the application of digital twins, right? When you visit a customer, they do have all kinds of questions, right? What do I do to improve the availability of my asset or my process? How do I do a better predictive maintenance of such assets, right? Those are potentially pretty good areas where digital twin can benefit, the application can help them, right? And right now, for instance, it comes to mind, right? Some projects that we just recently started in Chile, where this is making a difference, right? Because it's not your traditional way of solving the same old problem, right? But an innovative way where you aggregate the information coming from all different kinds of IoT and putting the user in the loop into that will help you achieve a new dimension, I believe, right? So I think this is a great potential in there.
Excellent. All right, Giuseppe, with your background in packaging, what area do you see digital twins providing the most value, and can you provide an example in terms of environmental impact?
Yeah. I come from a region which is Emilia-Romagna that is together with Baden-Württemberg and the Basque countries. There is probably 80% of the concentration of packaging machine builders in the world. The question is for the packaging, for a vertical sector, when with a digital twin we go into a vertical sector, we should understand the dynamics for introducing technology into the companies. And at the moment, the decision is always based on the data that are coming from only the border of the company, from the customer request. Digital twin instead has huge possibilities to extend and to, like a sponge, to take data also from an extended supply chain. And the moment when we move the digital transformation from the business to consumer, a B2C market, to a B2B, then we can apply the same feature that made the digital transformation strong in the business to consumer, which is, for instance, the product customization. And now into the business to business, we can start to work on process customization. What does it mean? A very simple example on a project that I'm working on is into the sector of pallet wrapping with film plastic. At the moment, the machines are blind. They only see they work on the base on the experience of the operator that set up the kind and the quantity of the plastic which is used, which is needed. But in this experiment, we start to bring into the decisional process the requirements of the data for the routing the process routing. So if a pallet should be moved in 10 kilometers or 200 kilometers, then it needs different profile of acceleration and deceleration, so a different quantity of plastic around. So this is a process customization, and we can operate with a digital twin, can be operable with a digital twin of the process on real time. It means that we should generate the digital twin and then also have the architecture for a digital twin in order that can be used in a real-time environment, like, for instance, with the edge solution in and talking with industrial automation world. In this case, we can customize and reduce plastic. So what is the interest in the packaging? The packaging has a huge impact with the climate change and the needs for plastic reduction. And in this case, digital twin can give the flexibility to adapt the utilization of plastic only what is needed for that utilization. And yeah.
Oh, great. All right, Christian, maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the applications you're seeing where digital twins are, and then what are the values being recognized sort of at the different phases of the life cycle?
Yeah, sure, I can try to. So, talking about the life cycle first, usually when we start talking with our customers about their goal for digital twins, we end up very fast in either something that is helping during the design phase, increasing efficiency in their development process, or they start from an operational phase where they have a lot of data and want to gain some insights. And depending on that, the values, ideally the quantifiable values, might change a little bit, but very often it's driven by profitability or sustainability. So very often it's about energy savings, reduction of waste, yeah. And there are several examples. So we had a project with a sheet metal forming company based out of Italy called Padula Mugello, and we helped them to create a digital twin that involves both lots of data coming from different kind of sensors, thermal sensors, camera sensors, as well as knowledge from the design phase in the sense of simulation models, both brought to a level, a reduced order model level that we call it, that we can derive real-time information, KPIs about the process quality that then affect the end product's quality. And this kind of digital twin helped them really to reduce production waste by 15%. And this is already, as Dr. Grieves said, this is these kind of values that you need also in the short and mid-term, and not what you can achieve in 5 years plus. And we have other examples. We worked with a company on batteries for electric vehicles. And there it was more on the design phase, optimizing the strategy for the cooling of the battery. And we were able to reduce the time for active cooling by 60%, which then lead to 5% range increase. And 5% additional range might be the differentiation if you reach your target or not, yeah? And a completely different example is that we did with a company for industrial coffee machines called Gruppo Cimbali. They collect, so it's the coffee machines that you usually don't have in your kitchen, but you will meet them at Starbucks or so. They collect a lot of data since 10 years via the IoT platforms already. And they were looking to how can we use this knowledge and transfer it also in the development phase. So helping to create simulation models that enable them to reduce energy loss by 20% for the next generation products, while at the same time reducing the development time by 30%. So I think that is, as already said, the most important fact if you go into these digital twin projects, find these use cases where you can achieve a quantifiable value to get the management on board and say, okay, this is the first step and what will be the next steps coming up in the following years.
Excellent. Those are great examples. I think, Carlos, maybe you could talk about it in terms of where you're seeing digital twins being applied in Latam.
Yeah, well, that's actually a very interesting question, right? When I first started working with digital twins in Latin America, it was very interesting the fact that the more brownfield kind of domains, such as mining, for instance, are the main requesters of the technology, right? And it's very interesting, right? Because I mean, I have worked a lot in the past in Singapore, implementing in high-tech companies, right? Aerospace and so on and so forth. So that was kind of natural, right? That's like the logical next step, right? But in Latam, there is a very powerful interest, a very strong interest in implementing digital twin technologies, right? So mining sector, as I mentioned earlier on, power grids, water, and interestingly enough, the first projects we were able to capture and to be supporting in Latam are with the astronomy domain, right? So we are working right now with the European Southern Observatory, which is, they have this probably is the largest telescope in the world, like the biggest optical device, right? And they are building even a bigger one, right? And we are supporting them, right? Creating digital twins on their, let's say, critical assets, right? So it's very interesting because you have a mix and match, right? But the main driver here is we do have a new tool, right? Let's use that tool to support our business better, right? To enhance our maintenance. Let's be less reactive, more proactive, right? We have a lot of information, right? We used to not to have so much information. It was very unstructured. Now we do have pretty consistent IoT, right? So using this will allow these companies to move to the next stage, right? And for us in NTT, there's something that is always in our mind, right? Is to keep the user in the loop, right? Because if you have a twin of an asset or a twin or of your process, but you are not thinking about who is going to use it, why he is using this device, this digital twin, right? What are the purpose? Is he going to learn about something by using it? So training. Is he going to push the best practices? He's an expert who has been there for a long time. Can he use this to actually embed the system with such knowledge? All those questions, right, will immediately be kind of habilitated towards the end user, right? Effectively pushing their business to a new level. So Latam is very vibrant in accepting new technologies, right? And from Chile, where I'm based, we do have very interesting approaches from companies asking us, can you tell us what is this all about, right? How this can benefit, right? So we are working right now in a very strong value proposition in Latam, right? And aligning with our views in Europe as well. And this is giving us a very interesting approach as a company, right? So, yeah, definitely very interesting situation happening in Latam.
Dr. Grieves, in your presentation yesterday, you mentioned the fact that when you did a Google in the early, I guess it was 2018, 2019, about 1 million hits that you saw. And now when you did that, you saw over 10 million hits. I guess one of the questions I would have is, you know, and it's widely accepted that digital twins had their root in manufacturing and aerospace. Where do you see the fastest growing area in terms of adoption?
Well,
or is it broad-based?
So I have to maybe correct that a little bit, is that the first presentation I gave was on the use of a digital twin in service, okay? And so it really wasn't manufacturing, it was you know, how do you service products better? It was at a manufacturing conference, but that was sort of my focus. So it points out the fact that I think that this sort of has exploded in all particular areas. So for me to tell you, well, I think it's, you know, say, so you have to understand that my view of the product life cycle is you create the product, you build the product, you support and sustain the product, and then you dispose of the product. So taking away disposal for the minute, because that sort of comes in and out depending on on what the focus is of the government regulations. But in those particular three areas, I think you're seeing it in all those areas. Maybe service has been at the least, but that is coming on strong. So it's like a horse race where the at any point in time along the track, one horse in one area is going faster than the other. But I want to sort of make a point about sort of this idea of data and information is what we're finding out, and this really applies a lot to service, is that what companies have the opportunity is to use the digital twins in two areas. One is in their own organization, so they can reduce cost, and the accountants always love that one, and so the ability of doing more with less. But the other aspect is you can basically monetize that information and sell it to your customers. So it creates a new revenue stream. So I always get in the issue about from CEOs, well, how can I save money? And sort of the thing I say is, yes, you can do that, but don't underestimate. So for example, jet engine manufacturers are now being able to sell the engine performance to their customers so that they can do a better job. In point of fact, they can take over maintenance that the airlines used to do because they have a much wider population of engines, so they can say, when in these sort of sensors, when I see that, this is going to fail in the future, and we're going to replace it as opposed to it failing. So I think, when we're talking about creating value, it's not simply, yes, I can use this in my organization, but I can actually monetize this information and sell it to my customers. That's going to be huge.
Christian, you want to have any comments to that?
That's exactly what we see at the moment, where we see the most tractions, and we're talking to customers, especially in these sectors, also like Carlos said, where they have huge assets that are running for years and years, and they have been selling service level agreements to their customers already for 3, 4, 5 years on different stages, starting from, okay, we can help you visualize the data of your assets running in the field, up to we do predictive maintenance. But they have done this without what I would call a digital twin. And now the tools are available to help them either create these new revenue streams or help them ensure them or get to the next level. Because very often, okay, predictive maintenance, it's nice to know that something will happen when, but can we get further? Can we think about prescriptive maintenance? How can I change this? How can I reduce the time that my service people need on the field if they are already aware of what needs to be changed? And being able to sell their digital twins to their end customers as an observer running in parallel, being able to send an alert if something happens. I think that, as Dr. Grieves said, that is the value that will be a lot higher, more significant, more relevant than just saving X amount of energy or reducing development time. That's always nice, yeah, but this is helping companies avoiding to be the next Kodaks, yeah.
I see a lot of people nodding their heads, so absolutely in those areas. Why don't we go ahead and open it up to the audience for some Q&A now? And brilliant answers. Thank you very much. So let's turn it out to the audience. I'd like to ask you if you have any questions for the panelists. Please raise your hand. All right. Well, I have a question, and that's really, I'll go back to you, Dr. Grieves. How do you see digital twin technology evolving, and what are the potential benefits you anticipate seeing in the future?
So again, remember my premise is that all of human life is goal-oriented task, and we want to minimize the amount of resources to accomplish that. So and there's a huge opportunity there because there's a lot of wasted resources out there. So what I think that's going to happen is, as I said yesterday, that we're in the ad hoc phase, and as you just sort of said, that people are doing sort of things without actually having digital twins. They've had some information, but they haven't pulled it together. I mean, we're going to move to sort of platforms where we have different digital twins, but they can operate together, and we can basically not have them in silos. And so one of my biggest things, in fact, with product lifecycle management is is we needed to move from a functional centric view of organizations where engineering had their own information. In fact, the classic case was engineering designed the product, threw it over the wall to manufacturing, say, go build it, and the poor manufacturing guys, are scratching their head. And then when it comes out to the service people, they're going, well, what the hell is this thing, and how do I fix it? So we need to move from a functional centric view to a product centric view where we populate and consume information from a central repository. And that's what a digital twin actually is. And so I see us having sort of integrated digital twins and being able to have them cross the entire product lifecycle. The other thing is, and it goes to the predictive aspect of it, we do not want to have problems in the future. Okay, now that's a bold statement that basically says, it's an ideal, but I think that what we're going to see is this continual refinement of forecasting issues and being able to then be able to fix them before they occur. And so as I said yesterday, that my ideal is this idea of front-running simulation, and this is where IT comes in, is not simply just the modeling and simulation, but at every time zero, we get the actual data of what's happening in the world. Because remember, the physical world trumps the virtual world every day of the week. And when we get that information, we then rerun our modelings and simulations in order to be able to predict what's going to happen. And when we can see probabilities of things that are occurring that are adverse, we get out there and we fix them before that occurs. And so that's where I basically sort of see AI. I mean, I always look at AI as a spectrum from smart calculators to a T1000 Terminator, okay? Well, we really don't want the T1000 Terminator. Anybody want a T1000 Terminator? No? Okay. But I view AI as not this separate thing, but basically a little angel sitting on our shoulder, saying, hey, you need to be thinking about this. This is what's going to happen, and predicting them, not with absolute certainty, but if I've got good probabilities, I mean, that's going to help me be able to say, I may repair certain things before they actually would fail, but if I can prevent a failure, which are very, very expensive, I don't care whether you're talking about at the design phase, at the manufacturing phase, or at the support phase, if I can prevent that from occurring, I save untold, and especially when it comes to safety, where it's human lives involved. I mean, actually there is a price people put on it, but it really, in my estimation, is priceless. So this ability of having a crystal ball into the future is, I think, where we're going to see digital twins and the information we're collecting on actually what's happening from moment to moment that's going to be of huge impact.
Excellent. So, Giuseppe, talking about that in terms of how you see more automation coming into play between these digital twins, maybe you could put that in the context. You brought up supply chain management and the importance. So
this is also an interesting observation that I saw when dealing with the automatic machine producers, is that they are using digital twin since years. Where they are using? For the digital commissioning. So it means that they use, it was not needed a special, let's say, push to let them use this technology. And they are using it. Many companies in Europe, they are using. So the question is how to let them perceive the possibility to extend the business utilization of a digital twin. Since that we have already a digital twin in place of the machine, what we can do with this digital twin? We can use it as a platform for adding other services and new revenue streams, as it was told before.
And that's a great point. I mean, we've seen companies now delivering digital twins to their end customers to validate before actually going out and building, and I think that's a key area. Maybe Carlos, you could comment on that.
Yeah, actually, from our point of view, probably to have composable architectures, such as the ones that DTZ is pushing toward. That's very important because it will allow you to be more modular in your implementation. The other one is probably to build services around the digital twins, right? Which makes it even more appealing, right? So digital twin service kind of, right? So instead of just building your digital twin, which is good, right? What services can be built upon your digital twin? Can you do virtual commissioning? Can you do some testing on sensors on the virtual part, right? And then once that you are selecting which ones you need to read to procure the minimum number of signals and the frequency you want to push it towards the real installation, right? Merging these two capabilities, right? Probably those could be very interesting things, and we are actually looking after the implementation of those composable architectures in what we are doing, starting from the MVP, right? That MVP will be part of your final digital twin, right? This is where you start, right? But it's not going to be isolated. It's going to be something that is part of something that is going to be even bigger than that. You don't need to build your whole facility at once, right? Start little by little on your critical process, your critical assets, right? And use the machine learning that you need to actually support the decisions you want to make. Give this to the user in a way that the user can consume it, right? So if the user is some guy who's sitting in front of a machine and he's on a, I don't know, 8-hour shift and he needs to do something, right? He doesn't have the time to see a very fancy visualization, right? He needs to see something that could be useful for him in that kind of application, right? Whereas the same data, right, is exactly the same situation. Your manager will require more information, right? Give him the tools, but it's the same data stream, right?
And I think you hit on a key point is really looking at, when you start your journey on a digital twin, you want to really look and understand what is the objective. Taking a page out of the jobs to be done book is, what job are you hiring the digital twin for? And understanding from that perspective, that low-hanging fruit, understanding what are the capabilities necessary to achieve that job. And I think as you're talking about from that standpoint of the composability is very key from that area. Maybe you could comment on that, Christian.
Yes. So one thing that is also key in this composability and solving a specific problem is that when we start talking to our customers, the first question is, as you said, what is your overall goal? What do you want to achieve, and where are you? So then we say, okay, we come with our toolbox, yeah, and you can have everything. You can have machine learning, you can have data analytics, IoT, all kinds of simulation. And we would love that the customer says, okay, we have nothing, we take everything from you. Just between you and me, that happens not in every case. So there are solutions for IoT already existing. They use some kind of simulation. They have some data analytics experts, whatever. So a key aspect to compose this platform, which is very customer-centric, is open standardized interfaces. This is maybe even more necessary than in any kind of simulation that we have seen before. It's in every point where data meets. It's where the data comes into the platform. It's where simulation models need to be exchanged. It's about programming languages, because you need to involve the stakeholders that are already there. You need to create acceptance from the beginning, because they will be the ones that will be your internal ambassadors. As Carlos said, you cannot just deliver, say, okay, here's the digital twin, have fun. You need to create momentum. It will grow, and so you need to create this acceptance. Means to bring all the people with their tools into this platform, and you have to rely on open standardized interface. This is more key than in every other thing that I've seen before.
Yeah, I'd agree, and I don't think there's going to be one standard. I think everybody would agree there's not one standard to go and create a digital twin. The standardization you're referring to is at the capability level. Yeah. And from that standpoint, being able to look at that and understand how does that ensure the free flow of data through the system of systems that are getting much more complex, much more complicated. And you brought out our toolbox. Through our membership, actually incubated this idea of capabilities and composability framework. And we actually have a toolkit released on our site to give you better understanding of that and see really as a way to start your journey of digital twin. So that's on digitaltwinconsortium.org website. You can download that. We actually have members that have joined because they recognize the value out of seeing that composability concept, and now they've joined in, and now we're working on the next level of that. So we have a subgroup dedicated to that within our capabilities and technologies working group. So within the consortium, I think you've been hearing great examples, whether it's been in the side for telescopes and the next generation of that going on in Chile through Carlos. You've heard about the packaging and the supply chain management. You've heard about a whole spectrum coming from Dr. Grieves in terms of the services, these different areas, and then certainly from Christian about the applications and areas as well. So you're seeing the breadth of these different applications where honestly every industry can recognize value through using a digital twin. And that is a key enabler of digital transformation. So to that end, the Digital Twin Consortium actually has 12 different working groups covering these different segments. And if you look at it, from the perspective, where is our slides here? There we go. So not only is the Digital Twin Consortium driving awareness, but it's really accelerating the adoption and bringing the thought leadership and the innovation through gentlemen such as you see on this panel, through our members. We have over 200 members now. We continue to grow around the world, representation over 30 countries. And it really is about bringing your innovation, bringing your capabilities, collaborating through this collective intelligence to bring out your thought leadership. And that really helps and serves to expand and grow the opportunities that we're recognizing across all these different industries. So with that, I just want to say thank you to our esteemed panel. Great Q&A. Thank you for attending. I'd like to thank them with a round of applause, please. And if there's no other questions, last opportunity, we'll conclude because I know we're right in front of lunchtime. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.